I guess it's the equivalent of like Americans saying "Holy cow."
Holy cow. Yeah. I was thinking holy but holy cow makes more sense.
Yeah,
Holy
holy
cat.
cats.
Holy cats. I'm like, what's a holy cat? Like a church cat?
What's a holy cow?
That's fair. That's a good point, man.
We're on to something. Maybe I'm not as dumb as I think. Maybe I'm the smartest of the dumb.
We're both the smartest of the dumb. We win.
And that's our opener. Make note of that. Welcome to Theoretical Nonsense, the Big Bang Theory watch-along podcast. No PhD required.
We're the podcast that recaps all the episodes of The Big Bang Theory. No spoilers.
So hop into your favorite spot.
Make yourself a grasshopper
and enjoy the ride. Hello there, Ryan.
Hello, Rob.
How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty fantastic. How about yourself?
I'm doing wonderful because we are recapping Season 3 of The Big Bang Theory.
Oh, yeah.
For any new listeners out there, I'm Rob. This is my co-host Ryan, and we are Theoretical Nonsense, the podcast that reviews, recaps, and deep dives facts for The Big Bang Theory, which we call IQ points. And normally we break down each episode and run through IQ points that we find, but today is special. We finished Season 3, so we are going to spend our time recapping.
We're also going to be
talking,
going over the Theorists a little bit too, right?
Yep. There was a vanity card a while ago where Chuck Lorre called out the Belarus knockoff of The Big Bang Theory called the Theorists. So Ryan and I watched it, and we are going to break that down, as painful as that is going to be.
It's something.
We're also going to talk superlatives of Season 3. We're going to talk about our favorite parts, least favorite parts, favorite IQ points, best guest actors, and so forth. And then our next episode after this, we will be beginning Season 4 of The Big Bang Theory. So, a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. Don't forget to email us at theoreticalnonsensepod@gmail.com. Leave us a review on Apple and Spotify, and follow us on Instagram and TikTok at theoreticalnonsensepod. Since it's the season finale, I haven't done this every episode, but I thought I'd give like a little neighbor update.
Mm-hmm.
So, any new listeners out there, I had a true crime incident more or less happen to me. See the full story on our episode 22, which was season 2, episode 4, The Griffin Equivalency. The first hour of the episode is dedicated to a true crime incident that basically happened to me. So I've been giving little updates. So, quick little update. Shocker, nothing really happened.
Dun, dun, dun.
The judicial system in America runs quite slow, and I looked at the docket in the last 4 to 5 months, and there's just been a series of subpoenas been happening. Wow. And the last line that they had on the docket was back in 10/1, so it would, from when this launches, it's about a month ago. Like I said, nothing has really happened. So they haven't even set up a court day yet. So it's like, that sucks.
That's we think we're like trials are supposed to be swift and speedy, but they are as drawn out as can be. I just had a friend serve on a jury duty. It was a lawsuit case, and apparently it's been in the works for like 4 years. And it's like, how would you like to be in the middle of a lawsuit for 4 years of your life? Like, that's horrible. That's brutal. That's
money you're paying your lawyer too, constantly. Mm-hmm. So at the end of it all, you will be broke.
Yep, and from what I heard, they didn't win that much money, so ouch. the lawyers won that case.
Yeah. In any court case, the winner is the lawyer.
That's what there's this old story I always tell my class is, and it was based, I remember reading it in a newspaper, I can't remember where it happened, but it was this old woman hired some people to clean out her gutters, and I'm paraphrasing the story, but they ended up finding like a stashed bag of like gold doubloons or something in it that were worth like $100,000, $200,000. I don't know, I'm making up a number here, but quite a bit of money. And the old woman's like, they were in my house, you found them, but they're mine. And the cleaners were like, we found them, they're ours. And so they took it to the courts, and the question is, who do you think won?
It should have been her because we actually just talked about this in a previous episode about the finders keepers law.
Yeah. Did I
It's
bring up
on
this
her pro.
case
No, I
specifically?
don't
I didn't.
know.
Um, the actual answer is the
'Cause-
lawyers. By the end of it, the Goldblums paid for the lawyers.
oh, burn.
So, you try to figure it out without a lawsuit because those lawyers will drain you, and it will be several years of your life.
Yeah.
Wow. I think she ended up winning, but still at the same time, it was everybody was drained, and it cost more to have the case than they were actually fighting over. So,
Yep. Yep. We had an IQ point all about sunken treasure and the finders keepers law. That was
maritime law, right?
yeah, the Lord of the Rings episode about
Yes.
when they found the ring. Yeah. Yeah, I guess if anyone's interested, there is a finders keepers law. That's the kind of little fun stuff that we talk about. So if it's on
Mhm.
your property, it's technically yours. But in terms of finders keepers, it's really about like where it was actually found and the nature of the property itself.
And you have
Because
to,
technically, the gold doubloons don't really belong to her. Technically, she has to report it.
yeah.
They go to her and then she reports it, and then the word gets spread out, and then if no one claims it, then it can go to her. But if someone
Mhm.
claims it, it's by rights theirs.
Yeah.
But they have to investigate the nature of how it was lost, essentially.
I lost them. They were mine. Ryan, you've never even been to the state, let alone the house. I lost them.
Bird just grabbed it and just flew away off
Away.
into the sunsets.
How could I have known they would have taken them to the house and put them in a gutter?
Yeah. Setting up a nest. It all makes sense.
It all makes sense.
The golds of blues weighed 200 pounds.
It was a big bird, a
bird.
stork.
It was actually Sesame Street's big
Just-
bird.
Big bird. With his orange legs and his pointy beak.
Dude, I've been watching so much Sesame Street lately because of my kid, and I'm not gonna lie, like every time Big Bird hops on, he's kind of scary looking compared to like the other Muppets or puppets
Uh-huh.
or whatever you want to call them. Like when Big Bird is like enormous and it's like giant bird, it's like holy crap, you're actually kind of scary.
And like everybody's like, Oscar the Grinch is supposed to be like the monster one. I'm like, but he's not that
Crouch.
scary, right?
Yeah.
So compared to, or even the Count isn't that scary compared to Big Bird. Big Bird's like
No, there's just
terrifying.
something about Big Bird that's like, oh, kind of scary.
He's iced a man or two, if you know it.
Oh,
Look
you
at
know
those.
it. He pet someone to death and trampled them. You know
Exactly. And he'd do it again too.
it. Sunny days of blood.
Sunny days.
All right, that's the end of housekeeping. Now we could finally move on to. Well, what do you want to do first? Do you want to talk Big Bang Theory or do you want to talk theorists?
Real quick, do you want to do Rick's email?
Oh my God, that's right.
I was just looking at the email. I'm like,
I totally forgot about that. I didn't make it. Like I said, I usually write my notes like so well and everything throughout the week, but like I've been so busy with everything that like I wrote these like 2 weeks ago, and like, I just haven't touched it since.
and this is kind of a weird episode too, where it's not following protocol. So it's
It's really not.
yeah. I'm like, do I even have enough notes for the show? I'm like, I wrote everything down.
know.
I don't know.
We'll be over in about 10 minutes.
Yeah, and that was quick.
Yeah, I know. Theorist recap. It sucked. The
It's
end.
like
Move
the
on.
end. Hope you had a happy Halloween.
All right, Rick's email.
Hi.
Do you want to read it?
I'll read it. I think I can do that since you're leading. Hi guys. Our friend Rick emailed us. Hi guys. Just finished listening to your latest episode 64, season 3, episode 22, the staircase implementation. I think you left a good IQ point on the table when Sheldon tosses in a small, almost throwaway comment of just 2 degrees makes the difference between steam and blah blah blah. I'm not looking for the exact quote. It's Sunday. We get it. There is a very scientific process and phase changes in water states. Steam is hotter than water vapor. Melting water is colder than ice, which is why you use salt. To ice for classic ice cream machines. If anybody's had that, it's a big crank and you fill it up with ice, you put salt on it, and it melts, so the water that melts is colder. I remember that there is a proverbial shelf in phases that is in the area of 10 degrees or so. Steam is 10 degrees hotter than vapor, melting water 10 degrees colder than ice, or something close to that. So I think Sheldon's idea of 2 degrees is a bit off. To go to steam from water would be more than 2 degrees just to get over the phase change shelf. Just a couple of cents from the Peanut Gallery. So thank you, Rick, because you are, I didn't even think about it, but I think that's absolutely true. And then we get things like snow, where snow, like, technically doesn't have to melt to become vapor. So 2 degrees is not exactly the same thing, right? I agree. I think Sheldon was a little jumping the gun and oversimplifying things. That it makes sense that phase shift changes are more than 2 degrees.
Yeah, it's a good call out, Rick. And yeah, we totally missed it. I guess we just heard it and just assumed, like, oh, well, that's probably right.
Makes
Let's
sense.
It's
Close enough,
sense,
but
yeah.
it's not quite close enough. And it reminds me too, learning that, like, hot water can, in the right situations, freeze more quickly than cold water. Something to do with that phase shift, like, interacts like just right. Which I didn't believe until I lived in a really crappy house in Nebraska, and my hot water pipe would freeze before the cold water pipe did. And so yeah, I had to thaw it out with, like, a hair dryer. I'm like, what the hell? Why is the hot water freezing? So
I think there's something in the science too where hot and warm water actually freezes clear, and then cold water phases cloudy or
yeah,
freezes cloudy.
and that's something to do with the oxygen in it too, right? The cloudiness, because I remember I got a friend for Christmas years ago gave me a ice tray with, it's like crystal skulls basically, and you, like, freeze ice cubes that are just skulls. And they said if you want them to be clear, boil the water first. And they mentioned that it had to do with oxygen. I don't know if it's just oxygen, but there's definitely having to heat it up and move it a little bit could make it clearer. Yeah,
Yeah.
something like that. So yeah, it's interesting.
Science.
Science
Well,
and ice.
well, thanks, Rick.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and thanks for remembering that. I totally forgot. So sorry about that.
No worries.
All right. So should we talk theorists, or do you want to talk season 3?
Oh, let's do theorists first. I have it in my
All
notes
right.
first.
And if anybody just wants to skip this, I'll have chapters in the show notes. So
But you're
if you want,
missing out.
you are missing out. So let's recap and talk about the theorists. So for anyone that isn't aware of this, the theorists was the Belarus knockoff, a complete, utter ripoff, almost 100% ripoff of the Big Bang Theory. Chuck Lorre mentioned it in a Vanity card, where it was kind of like, what the hell? I just heard about this and I checked it out and it was like, what the hell? Like, I'm not seeing any of this money.
What the?
But this was back in, like, what, 2009, I think?
I think so, yeah.
2009, 2010. And I looked into it a little bit. There's not a lot of information about it out there because it was basically a failed show in Belarus. So it's
Yeah.
not only is it a different country, but it was a failed show. So, of course, there's not a lot of information about it. But apparently, from my research, they actually did air 3 episodes.
I was thinking it was
And
just one, but it's 3.
it's 3, at least what I saw on, like, in the YouTube comments area. So they could be wrong, but I don't really, that's all I could find on it. And YouTube has the first episode posted with subtitles.
Yeah.
And I honestly don't know how good the subtitles are. I don't know if it was just bad subbing or if Belarus' sense of humor and dialogue is just different. And it was just like a direct translation, because some of the dialogue was like, I had to go back and read like a few times. I was like, I don't understand what they're getting at.
I feel like I'm supposed to be laughing, but I'm not following exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, like and maybe that's just their sense of humor, because like I we like watch a lot of Korean dramas and everything, and the style and the culture and the sense of humor is so different that Christina will laugh, and I'm just like, I don't get it. And she's like,
Hmm.
oh, it's a Korean thing. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and that happens. Humor is just different from culture to culture. Like trying to watch even like British humor compared to like American humor, like it's a lot drier and it gets a lot goofier. So trying to show my friends like was it Monty Python's Flying Circus? Oftentimes they're like, "What the hell are we watching?" I'm like, "It's funny," and they're like, "What?" So and that's English speaking countries, and it's still different. So going to another country in a different language, you could see the humor not necessarily following as closely.
Yeah. But all right, let's dive into
Let's
it.
go.
The Theorists, and if anybody wants to stop and watch the YouTube episode or the episode on YouTube, don't. It's not worth it. But we're gonna break it down. We're gonna break it down for you so you don't have to. So, opening is very similar to the pilot episode of Big Bang Theory, sort of. They're not at like a clinic, but like I thought they were at a clinic at first. They walked into a room and it didn't really establish that well of what they were doing. Like why are they there? What are they doing? They really did not establish that.
Completely just thrown into it. And I felt like we had to really hit the ground running. And they're talking to a guy. I'm like, why the hell is a guy there? Where are they? And what?
I know it's like, did we miss a scene? Is this really
Yeah.
the opening scene? But the two main leads, the Leonard and the Sheldon. The Leonard, his name is Seba, which is short for Sivoldo. Sivoldo, I'm guessing. Like I just read the translation, and
Yeah.
they kind of say his name very fast, but he goes by Seba.
So
And then the Sheldon is Ales. They enter what seems to be some sort of waiting room, but it isn't. Apparently, it's the lobby of their apartment that they're
or
moving into.
apartment or dormitory or something, or a dormitory is an apartment, or
Yeah. And then we basically meet the Howard character because he's kind of dressed just like Howard. He has the same bowl cut. He has a dickie. He's shorter than everyone, except he's definitely a lot grouchier. Um, his this is Oganes, but he's the Howard character, and he's sitting there doing a crossword puzzle, just chilling there. The two main characters try to talk to him, but he kind of blows them off. He like kind of turns as like they're talking to him to work on his crossword puzzle, and then just like in the American pilot, they look at his crossword puzzle and just start solving everything. And I didn't understand their conversation either because they're talking about, like, well, where do we live? What do we do? Where's the key? Well, this theory says that it should be in your pocket. And then
yeah,
he looks and it's like, oh, it is in my pocket. I was like, what?
there's
I
like
just did
theory of
not.
singularity. I felt like sometimes they were just throwing in like random uh, intellectual thoughts or theories, like but like they weren't really connecting, and there wasn't really much connection. They're just kind of throwing them in to throw them in.
There was no reason to do IQ points on this
Yeah,
episode, so we
it would have
didn't.
been random at
There's
best, right?
no reason. Didn't care.
And I was gonna say too with Howard's character especially, but they look older to me. Like all the characters look like they're in their late 30s at least, not if not
Well, we
40s.
learn. Well, they're learn. We learned that that they got jobs at a power plant. So that means
Yeah.
they're not in school. They're out of school. They're well graduated. So it kind of makes sense that they're older and they
Older.
have jobs. But at the same time, it's like what job offers like an apartment or a dormitory?
Yeah, so that was something that that might just be a
A Belarus thing.
yeah, or non-American thing because I think well, if you put it this way, like thinking of when the U.S. was working on nuclear warheads. If you've watched Oppenheimer, they talk about this, right? Where they actually constructed a whole town for military workers. So it might have been like, since it's a nuclear plant, the government is investing in dormitories because it's a public feature. I'm throwing out possibilities because it
Yeah,
seemed weird.
that's right. Well, also a side note, not only was Howard dressed up like Oganis, the Howard counterpart, dressed up just like Howard, Leonard and Sheldon characters were dressed spitting image.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. The Leonard character Seva had glasses. He had like he had like a purple hoodie underneath a jacket. Um, the Sheldon character Alez, he was like tall and skinny. He had his t-shirt under a long sleeve tee. It was like wow, like they're like complete ripoff.
Although to be fair, Sheldon's character is blonde, and so that's a little bit different. And for some reason, I always thought he had a look on his face like he was scared or he thought he was in trouble. Whereas I made a note that Sheldon like is kind of egotistical and cocky, and I felt like in this show his counterpart was more like
Timid.
I yeah, a frightened puppy or something. Like he's always in the background, like oh no, or is interesting change there. But he was dressed like you said, the long sleeve T-shirt and the T-shirt over it with a graphic tee. Yeah.
Well, then they finish solving the crossword puzzle. The Howard character just storms off, gets mad, storms off, and the intro is basically again a complete ripoff of the American version. It's a smash cut of pictures and paintings of monumental events and people. The song is pretty much the exact same thing as the Theory of Everything, where it's like it's just like it just basically talks about science and history and stuff like that. Yeah, it
It
was
does
basically a
mention at one
ripoff.
part, like, it talks more directly about the show because it says something like these scientists or theorists don't know how to talk to women or something like that, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to the American song is more just about science stuff, I guess, and Big Bang. On the bright side, I like the song just fine. So they
Yeah.
knocked it off well. It was good,
Yeah.
or at least I
The
liked it.
history of
So,
everything. The American
history,
song, the it's the history of everything. I
history,
think.
everything.
Yeah, that's right. Bare naked ladies. The history of everything. Well, anyways, moving on. Well, now we cut and the two guys go to their room, which is fully furnished. Which it took me a couple watches to realize I was like, why are they going to this room that's fully furnished and they think it's their room, but it's not their room, but they're not sure it's their room? Well, it's like, well, why do they think it's their room if it's fully furnished?
Uh huh.
Which we later learn is not their room. But apparently, but then after rewatching it a couple times, yeah, sadly I watched this a couple
Oh
times.
God.
Um uh they basically it's a throwaway line, but they think that the old tenants got evicted and were in a hurry.
Mm,
So that explains why they walked into a fully furnished apartment and they thought that it was just theirs.
that makes
But
more
even then
sense.
it's like, dude, call someone.
Yeah.
like like why is this shit in my room? Well, then they almost talk to that now. The Leonard and the Sheldon character almost talk to each other like they don't know each other. Like they talk about like their qualifications and everything like that. How the Leonard Seva says that he has a health certificate and he is a young scientist that has Uranus, which I didn't even look into, but apparently the guy got like a little weirded out by it, and he's like, no, but I'm fine though. I'm fine. And it's like, do you guys not know each other? Yet you guys acted like you know each other, but now you're acting like you don't know each other? And then Seva, the Leonard character, pulls out a photo of his lady love that left him, and he's all sad and everything. And there was a couple comical moments in this where the Sheldon character said, "Yeah, I'd leave you too." I was like, okay, that's kind of funny. And then we find out that the picture is a hamster.
And the whole thing felt more like a play than a TV show. Like it was kind of like I don't know. For me, it seemed like it was one stable shot, and we're watching them interact with like props on a playset, as opposed to I don't know more intimate close-ups. But yeah, like you said, like they pick up the photo and they walk around with it, and then it takes a while before we see the backside, and the camera flips around. But it's like, are you going to see the backside? Oh, that's the joke. That's why we're not seeing it.
Yeah. And then a blonde enters the room, a beautiful blonde. She sneaks up on them and she says that she's looking for Boris. And then Leonard just starts spouting out some weird gibberish. which I didn't even write down. It wasn't even really worth it.
Yeah.
But apparently she got dumped by someone, and I guess they might have lived there, except once we meet the new roommates or the people that do live there, none of them are Boris. So it's like, well, why is she there then? Why does she
Hmm.
think that's Boris's room? And then she leaves.
And I still don't
Because
get, does she live in the building with them? Like, did
I
you?
I know she works at the cafe, which we'll
Yeah,
see later, but at the same time, it's like, well, why are you here?
and it seems like the cafe is like on the bottom floor nearby,
Yeah.
but I still couldn't pick up like where the hell did she come from and why did she come in the room? It was okay. I'll
And
just
how do you not know where your ex's room was?
yeah.
Well, that's when we find out that the two main characters are there to help construct the new nuclear power plant.
Hmm.
And then when she leaves, Sheldon, Aless, asks Seva, well, why didn't you give her something sweet and whip her? That was weird. I was like, is that a European thing? Like,
Yeah, and like
give her
I thought
something
it
sweet and whip her?
had something to do with like his hamster. He used to. I don't. It just. I I was like, what the
If
fuck? Like it just didn't make sense to me.
if you're Eastern European or straight up from Belarus, please let let us
Is
know
that
what
an
this
old
means.
saying? Like give somebody something sweet and whip them? Like is that like a tradition? You know,
Ah,
I don't know.
well, the next Valentine's Day, I'm gonna send you a card. I'm gonna give you something sweet and whip you.
Oh yeah. It's like I get the card and then I just hear a whip in the distance. I'm like, he's coming for me.
Robert's around the corner. Wait, here's your sweet.
Oh,
Now-
thank you. Ow, he's whipping me. But it's so sweet.
Well, now we jump to the next scene and we meet the other guys. Um, so three people enter the room, and one of them is kind of like the Raj character because he has like the same sweater vest. Let me see. Did I get his name?
The only name I
So
wrote down
yeah,
was Natasha, who is the Penny character, the pretty blonde.
yeah. There was so then the new characters are one of them is Kolya, and then one of them is Sine. And I don't know which one is really which, but I'll just call them like the Raj character and the Howard character because yeah.
But it's kind
Well,
of weird
they
because they now basically Raj and Howard's character are broken up over
got
three characters, right?
yeah.
So
Well, one is definitely Howard, so Raj's character got split into two.
yeah. Although the other one, like I kind of see him having similar characteristics to both because he's very particular, more particular than the other guy. He's got like a
Oh
hat
yeah,
on,
a
right?
hat on, yeah.
So he's kind of mixing personalities there a little bit. But the guy we doing the crossword puzzle at first definitely seems like he's taking Howard's place.
Yeah, the guy with the hat and scarf, his name was Bora. Which at first I thought was like, oh wait, is he saying Boris? Is that the guy? But then no, it's a completely different name.
Of course it is.
Yeah. But um basically the three guys enter the room and they kind of see the 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 Leonard and the Sheldon and they're like, who are you? This is our room. And then they basically start getting into like an intellectual battle. Whereas Seva, the Leonard character, says, well, I have an IQ of 170. And then just like that, it makes them all friends.
It's like random snap, like, oh, he's part of the crowd. Even though the main guy was like complaining about how they had ruined his crossword and mad about that, and then suddenly I was like, it's okay.
And then they kind of do like a quick time jump, and now they're all just eating together at the table. But Seba, the Leonard character, is doing some weird chemistry on the table where they're eating. And they're talking about bathroom space for his experiments. They're talking about the bathroom. And then the guy with the hat is asleep. And then one of them grabs cyanide, which happens to be on the table because Leonard is doing this weird chemistry while they're eating. and then he sprinkles it on his salad by mistake, and rather than like he reacted very cool about that about oh, you just put cyanide on your salad. You'll die soon if you eat that.
It's
It
like,
was just
okay.
like
And like it definitely wasn't coming out like a spice. It was coming out like pills or something, right? Like it looked like a prescription glass bottle. That was a hard one for me to buy. Really forced.
yeah, and because he ruined the salad, they force him to go to the refreshment room and then get more food. So then he makes Sheldon give him money. So Sheldon pays for it all. So he gives Leonard money and he leaves. And then they are all start taking each other's salad because they don't want to eat the poisoned one.
Yeah.
And then the Howard kind of starts laughing because the other guy is asleep. The guy with the hat and the scarf, the
Bora?
Bora. And then like all of a sudden he wakes up and grabs the last salad. And then
From the
Howard
Howard
is left
guy.
with and then Howard is left without a salad, and I didn't see the humor in that at all.
They all laugh.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was that funny. It was, but I did want to say something. Two things. One, that they says the refreshment room, which made me think it was more like a dormitory. I think they say dormitory later that uh,
Yeah.
the apartment complex has a food room as opposed to like a maybe it's kind of a restaurant, but it is definitely a food room on the bottom, which I don't think many apartments have like this. But the food they eat, like in Big Bang Theory, they're always getting takeout and they're talking about like these fun foods to eat. In this show, they're everything they eat is like fresh veggies. Like they have a
Yeah.
salad, an apple. It looked like peppers at one time. Like none of it was even when they went grocery shopping, they had like peppers, a thing of eggs, and bread. Like it was very, very basic. And I'm like, that was different. I was expecting them to like bring up like carry out or a pizza or something, but nope. It was salad.
Probably cheaper for props.
That's absolutely true. A lot cheaper than Mandarin chicken.
Well, now Leonard goes down to get the food, and that's where we see Natasha again. She's working at in the refreshment room, and he tries to be cool with her, like, but then basically she's kind of portrayed as a bit of a gold digger on this one. She basically straight up says that like, "Hey, I'm not really that interested in you because you don't own your own apartment."
And
And
she's
then
just straight up mean too. Like
yeah, she almost reminds me a little bit of the Lost Pilot.
yeah.
Katie was her name. Like she was a
Yeah.
little bit meaner, a little bit rougher, and everything like that. I wonder if they modeled her after her
Katie?
instead of Penny.
Because I was thinking the exact same thing that she is much more like the Katie character than I mean both are pretty women, but the characterization, the actual interaction was gruffer, grittier.
Yeah, but now she kind of just tells the Leonard character that she was just dumped, and now she no longer wants romance. And she even calls herself, "I'm a cynical blonde." But then she actually says that she yearns for an old academic to notice her, not the young ones. So she is interested in it, but again, gold digger. She just wants an older man to like, you know,
Take care of her
probably
and
yeah, and buy her things. Because then, as soon as the Howard character comes, they're buying stuff. They're buying the buns and everything like that. The Leonard character orders 5 buns, and she only gives him 4, and he even calls her out, and she's like, "Aren't you gonna buy me one?" And he's like, "Oh, okay." And then the Howard character steps in and buys 8 and says 2 are for him and 6 are for her. So they're trying to buy her love with buns.
which is another thing about the food. Like they're going down to get refreshments, and what do they buy? Buns. Like, like, oh, okay. Different diet
Well,
expectations, I guess.
yeah. It's brain food. It's
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 brain
the food
food.
of physicists.
Buns.
Well, now we cut back to the apartment, and the 5 guys are sitting there, and they're giving a long-winded explanation of why one of them is hiccuping. So it's kind of a play on the Big Bang of the American Big Bang Theory, how they use like big terminology to just describe something simple.
Hmm.
Then they try to outdo each other with formulas on a clear board that they just magically pull
Came out
down
of
from the
nowhere,
ceiling.
which I feel like I could get
I was like,
behind
what?
that if it had some lead up to it, but like I didn't even understand why they were pulling it down and doing formulas, but like it was just like
I
okay.
did not. Yeah, I didn't pick up on that either. I was like, why are you doing this? But then they do a time jump. Obviously, it kind of shows that they're like that they've been spending hours talking about theories and everything like that. The room is completely wrecked. The Sheldon character is still writing formulas on the board. Um, Hat and scarf guy, Bora, is actually wiping something off his pants. And then the Raj character is tied to a chair. And
Yeah.
Leonard has a towel over his head, drinking from a mug and shivering. So I'm guessing somehow he got like soaked in water. So he's cold. So something weird happened, which they
Yeah.
really don't explain.
I thought he was thinking so much that he started feeling sick, but it makes more sense that he got soaked somehow and was cold. But yeah, I had no idea. I'm like, what the hell happened?
Yeah. And then Natasha enters. She just comes back to the apartment looking to get some salt. Weird.
Again,
That she
very
just keeps
basic food element. It
Well, it's just the
sucks.
idea that it's like, you work at the refreshment room.
Yeah, that's true too.
Well, the Howard character wakes up from sleeping and they keep insulting him, saying like, well, in your language we're saying blah blah blah. They're basically treating him like shit, just like what they do with Howard, and they are basically talking down at him because
Yeah,
Howard's like the engineer, so like, well, you don't have a PhD, so you're dumber. That so they're kind of basically just calling him dumb. And then again, a time jump, and they're doing some sort of experiment and sniffing from a beaker, and then we find out that it's detergent for the guy's pants.
hmm,
The guy who was wiping his pants and everything, we found out that like they messed it up somehow, and apparently he's very fond of that pants. But it's
it's
not
not his
detergent.
pants; it's
It's
like his soul.
yeah, and it's something stronger, and it ends up dissolving his pants, and all that's left is buttons.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
apparently they're not even good at their job. or they're not even good at science. So all you needed was some detergent.
And he just, for some reason I was thinking that they just dissolved and made the buttons come off, but it makes more sense that all that's left was the buttons. I missed that.
Don't worry, you shouldn't. I paid too much attention to this episode, which it kind of killed my. It probably killed a lot of brain cells. Watching this episode was the equivalent of drinking a fifth of alcohol. It just
It's like,
destroyed
what
me.
did I watch?
Well, now we cut ahead to nighttime, and the Leonard and Sheldon, since it's not technically their room, they have nowhere to sleep. Bora, the guy at the hat and the scarf, um, and the Raj, or wait, no, so hat guy has a couch.
Yeah.
And then the Raj character has his own room, apparently since he snores. So that's why he gets his own room. And then it gets weird. He gives a very factual explanation that if he doesn't get enough sleep, he might fall asleep at work the next day with the reactors and it'll be catastrophic. And then they kind of laugh track that where it's like I don't know why that's a joke when you're just being very literal right now. But yet somehow they line that with a laugh track.
I'm sure.
It's like I need to get to sleep, otherwise I'll fall asleep at the reactor and it'll be catastrophic. Ha ha
And
ha 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 ha. It's like, oh, what?
I noticed him say that, but I was still focused on why is like it's supposed to be a room for the two other guys. Why is the one guy sleeping on the couch? Is that like his normal bed? Like I
It's
didn't
because the other guy
understand.
snores. That's what they're
Oh, so
kind
they
of
had two
saying.
beds in one room. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Okay, I figured they had one bedroom, and he was saying, "I get the bedroom because I snore, and I don't want to fall asleep during work." But I didn't realize that there were two beds in there. That makes more sense.
And then he awkwardly eats an apple and kind of gawks at them. That was
Yeah.
just weird. I was like, "What?" That's an interesting character choice. I'm gonna gnaw on this apple awkwardly and then just stare at you.
Like, yeah, I don't know.
Well, then Howard, or not Howard, Leonard and Sheldon characters still cannot find a place to sleep. And then the other guy on the couch basically tells them to shut up. So then they're like, fuck it. We're just, if we can't sleep, no one sleeps. So
Hmm.
they pick up some pots and pans and just start banging on it. And then time forward or time jump, and now the three of them are on the couch now. Apparently, it's a recliner, so they all could have been sleeping there
From the
the whole time.
beginning.
Then the Raj comes out with his head. His head is wrapped up, and he's practically yelling. Not sure why. I don't understand. I couldn't tell if it was because I got it wrong and the other guy was snoring and he was mad that he just comes out about yelling about something.
Yeah, it's like it looks like ice packs on the side of his head, and I did not understand why. Did he have a migraine or what was going on?
Well, we just do a major time jump and it's later the next day and they come and all of them come in with groceries. And then this random old man enters and apparently it's their new supervisor whom they didn't even know. He just walks in and it's like, "You don't know who I am? I'm your supervisor." It's like, "You didn't know that? Like, who hired you guys?" And they were supposed to go to room 9, but they went to room 6. And then he basically insults them for being dumb. And then they're sent to their room where then the hat guy, Bora, kind of just interjects that he all of a sudden he wants them to stick around. All of a sudden he's like, "Hey, hey, hey, you can't take them away. We're a team now. And they can't just leave." And I actually did get a small chuckle out of this one. The supervisor looks at him and says, "Looks like you're the smartest of the dumb."
Yeah. I wanted to point out too that the supervisor has a catch line. Holy cats.
Yeah.
I don't know
Yes.
what that means. Holy cat. Holy cats. Like you just keep
I wonder if
saying
it's
it.
I guess it's the equivalent of like Americans saying "holy cow."
Holy cow. Yeah. I was thinking holy shit, but holy cow makes more sense.
Yeah.
Holy
Holy
cat.
cats.
Holy cats. I'm like, what's a holy cat? Like a church cat?
What's a holy cow?
That's fair. That's a good point, man.
We're on to something. Maybe I'm not as dumb as I think. Maybe I'm the smartest of the dumb.
We're both the smartest of the dumb. We win.
And that's our opener. Make note of that. And the supervisor sits them all down and he reads the room assignments. He has the official ledger and he's like, "Hey, Leonard and Sheldon character, you are supposed to be in room 9. Everyone else is room 6. The end." And that was it. That was the episode. So
Yeah.
it left me with so many questions. It's like, wait a minute. They're starting a new job and they get a new apartment, which they call it an apartment, but then they'll later call it a dormitory. So I don't know if it's a translation issue.
That's some sort of
And then
translation issue, yeah.
and then they go to the wrong apartment and they spend one day together with these random strangers. Then all of a sudden they're best friends and they've never met their supervisor or were even told who their supervisor is or thought to even call someone about the room assignment. Like once you realize, "Oh, this is the wrong room. There's two other people that live here. Shouldn't we have done something about this?"
Call someone, check into it, not just
Like there's a reason why this only lasted like 2 or 3 episodes.
I was gonna say two other points I was gonna mention. One, as much of a knockoff as this was, they did have a completely different stance on money because Sheldon, we learn that he really doesn't care about money. He has a bunch of money saved up, and in this one, the Sheldon character's like has to give money and he doesn't want to, and like yeah, different look on money. But the big question I've had: why did they have so much shit on the floor? I feel like there were 2 or 3 scenes where they are like brushing like cans and bottles off the floor. I'm like, what the fuck are they doing?
Like, for like a knockoff, they didn't even do a good job. Granted, like I've never seen another sitcom from Belarus, so I don't know what the style is like.
Yeah.
But it's like, what happened? I guess this is even bad for Belarus standards if it got canceled.
Why does that guy have a thing wrapped around his head? I have so many questions.
So many questions, just so many like like oh my god. Well, we watched it so you don't have to. And
Ta-da.
I'm sure you just completely skipped out. If you actually listened to our rant on this, our recap and rant, thank you. We
Thank you.
appreciate it.
You're a holy cat.
Holy cat, thank
Holy
you.
cat.
You're the smartest of the dumb, just like us.
Just join. You're part of the team now.
Oh, anything else to talk about with the theorists?
I think that's more than enough.
We spent way longer than this deserved.
Yeah.
But all right, let's finally talk about the real Big Bang Theory and talk overall thoughts and recap and everything else about season 3.
Season 3 is a good season.
Great season. So let's talk. Let's start positive. Let's start.
Awesome.
What were our high moments of it all? Like, let's just talk overall highlights. Do you want to go first or me?
I'll go first. Looking over this, sometimes it's hard for me to remember like what took place this season and last season because this was a long season too, 26 episodes compared
23.
to 23. What was I thinking?
What were
23
you
episodes.
watching? How many episodes of The Theorist did you watch?
The Theorists count as an extra 3 episodes for me. 23 episodes. And trying to remember like what happened, but knowing that it did start with them coming back from the North Pole, and I thought that was a great beginning, and we do see quite a lot of development. But I was going to say that the rivalry with Wheaton has been a plus, seeing that continue, and I like where that's going, and hopefully it comes back more.
Yeah, I do love that they made it an ongoing thing. Like, I know
Yeah.
sitcoms have this tendency of just like introducing a storyline and dropping it, but it's like a reoccurring thing, and that's something that's really fun.
Yeah, I'm enjoying that, and having Wheaton return for that is, yeah, good for them. Learning what happened with the elevator was a big plus, and we get the background of how Leonard and Sheldon met. Uh, Seeing Howard grow as a character more than just the chauvinistic ladies' man he thinks he is. He's had some moments where he's showing himself as quite a decent person. I really like seeing that side of him. And, it ends with Sheldon getting a girlfriend. The perfect way to end the season, and, like, makes us wonder where the heck this is going. But, yeah, some of those are very strong points.
I will piggyback on one thing that you said about Howard, and I'm going to actually call this one of the lows.
Uh,
Granted, I've seen the entire series, so I know where it goes. But when you're just watching it for like the first time, when they just threw Bernadette away, just out of nowhere in the Plimpton simulation, where all of a sudden you find out like, oh, wait, don't you have a girlfriend? And he's like, no, 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 we broke up weeks ago. I just haven't said anything. It's like, that's kind of a like, because if you don't know what's about to happen or how many episodes she'll be in, but you looked at her IMDb, so there's really not, you already spoiled it for yourself,
um,
right?
yeah, I've just known from images I've seen from the show that she's got to be in it for more.
She's
More
not
than
gone, but
she's not gone permanently. But I absolutely agree. In fact, I think I had that as a low somewhere that it felt really weird to just have her disappear. And like, no, I mean, I guess Howard's not the spotlight of the show. It's Penny and Leonard. But at the same time, like, that was such a good relationship, and he's having that character development that uh, it was important enough to see on camera a little bit, or a little bit follow up, not just like, oh, we broke up. Like that was too belittling of Bernadette's character, even if
yeah.
she does come back.
But like you said, we know that she comes back. So
Hmm.
hope like, well, I won't say anything, but the explanation. But yeah, I really liked. I thought this was a really strong opening. How it just picked up from season 2. I loved that opening. It's one of the highlights of seeing them all with like this rugged facial hair, and all of a sudden Sheldon just walks in and he's clean cut. I loved seeing that. You mentioned the elevator. That's definitely one of the highlights. How they all met each other. The staircase implementation is one of the better episodes.
Mm.
You see Joyce Kim. Love that. Because
Yeah.
been mentioned a couple times. You finally meet her. A lot of build up, and it paid off. I did love, and I wish I could see more of the dating lives of Raj and Howard in the beginning, like the
Mm.
Gothowitz thing, to
Yeah.
actually see how two best friends in the real, in the real, in quote, real world, like in the dating world, how they're trying to be each other's wingman and stuff like that, and things like that. So I did really like that. And we introduced Raj and Sheldon working together. So I'm excited to see more of that. And honestly, the highlight was Penny and Leonard, their relationship, like just kind of seeing them together. We talked about this at the beginning of the season that we actually it was very realistic how they had no sexual chemistry, and then
Hmm.
they kind of fleshed that out. And I
Yeah.
kind of like that they kind of just showed that they were having trouble like operating as like a new, like they like each other, they want to make it work, but it's like how are we going to figure our rhythm out?
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed watching that too. And then finally, Drunk Sheldon, always a
Yeah.
winner.
On stage, dropping
Yeah,
pants.
yeah. Here's Uranus. So those were my highs. Any other highs that you want to talk about?
I think that sums them up. I was gonna say that where did I have it? Somewhere in here. That it's more of a best moment, but piggybacking on Howard and Raj, I'll just say it now that one of my favorite moments is when they go roller skating together to make up for Bernadette and him double dating with Leonard and Penny, right? That he makes up to Raj and they go disco skating. I just love that as an
Yep.
ending. It's gonna be in my mind forever. So that was a
Yep.
great point.
All right. Should we talk lows?
Lows, low.
Low, low, low.
So the first low that comes to my mind is I felt like Lewis Black was wasted. He was a side character who like works in the basement, and you weren't completely recognizing who he was, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah. When I first watched it, I had no idea who he was. And I thought it was kind of strange that so much camera time was given to this person that, like,
Yeah,
I have no idea who this is, but now I do.
and like seemed like an interesting character, and like he's Lewis Black, so he has a lot of charisma, and I felt like it was just kind of like maybe not a
For
completely
anyone that doesn't
throwaway.
know, that's creepy crawly.
Mm, down in the
Yeah.
basement. He, yeah, I just felt like he could have had more, maybe been in the episode more, or hopefully he would come back. But as far as I know, he does not come back, and so it was like that was a really weird guest star, I suppose. That it deserved more. He deserved more.
Yeah.
So that the breakup between Penny and Leonard seemed forced, and I know I mentioned that in the episode that it just seemed like it wasn't working. That they're doing that for drama, and they would have worked that out. I
Yeah, I feel like they didn't really like it took a little bit of time, I guess, but like they just became friends and they didn't
yeah.
really talk it didn't really seem like they even talked about it. Like, well, I don't get it. Like, why are we breaking up?
Mm-hmm.
Like we kind of understand by putting the pieces together. Like, he loved her, she was afraid to go down that road, but at the same time it's like, well, is that really a reason to break up? I mean, I guess,
Like
but
if you do care about him, is aren't you scared of losing him? Like there seemed like there's just a lot more internalization there that we're not seeing, and it wasn't really fair to the relationship or the investment we have.
yeah.
And doubling on that, when she, at the end when she comes and sleeps with Leonard, without more reflection on her response to that, I felt like it was really oversimplifying the double standards we have in society of girls being able to sleep with guys and guys can't go out and get that the same way. I'm like, I think that's really not. And sometimes it works like that. It's a stereotype, but I felt like it felt forced to me. I wish we had more from Penny's reflection of it and where she's thinking of the relationship. We've been so close to her that we're really cut out of her life, and it seems what's the word, surface level, almost like a two-dimensional character at some points. And final low point is I felt like the Christmas episode just wasn't very strong. And I love holiday episodes, and I keep thinking like, oh, we didn't have a holiday episode this season. We did. It just it wasn't memorable. So
It was not the holiday was not the highlight.
yeah,
That's true.
it's true.
One of my lows is Martha. I don't know if you remember when Sheldon and Raj went to the mixer,
Yeah,
and then they met the two girls. One was interested in Raj, one was interested in Sheldon. I wish we got more Martha stuff because she was really into him. And I even said it like, hey, like they actually do have a lot in common. They actually have intellectual conversations. That could have at least gotten stretched out to a couple episodes, or at least she could have come back at some point.
and I was kind of getting that mixed up because I was looking into that, and like I know the characters are different and the episodes were different, but at the same time, it was season 2, I believe, where we had oh, I forget, Rika, the woman from Garfunkel and Oates who was dating him to
Oh
get a
yeah,
publication, and for some reason,
Ramona.
Ramona, there we go. That I was kind of intertwining her with Martha from the other episode where they're at the date night, and they're completely different. But at the same time, I felt like Martha deserved because she wasn't just using him; she was just a strong compatibility, and I would have liked to know why that wasn't working.
Yeah. Like why didn't Raj do more or something? I guess I understand why, because it's Sheldon, there's no hope for him.
Yeah,
So you give up on the lost cause and he's focused on his girl.
yeah, it's
But the
companionship.
but at the same but at the same time it's like Raj, if you have a connection with this other girl, again, why didn't we see more of that relationship? What happened?
Yeah.
Could he
So
not just all of a sudden, or did it realize that, like, well, if I'm dating this girl, I need to be drunk still? I have to be drunk all the time?
that's too
Or
much.
I mean, because let's face it, like knowing Raj's character, he wouldn't stop calling her. If anything, she would stop calling him.
Mhm.
But they never addressed that.
And I think for a one episode character, I would be okay with like, oh, we broke up. But with Bernadette, she's been in several episodes, and it's been very clear that it's pretty epic that somebody's dating Howard. Raj, we know that he's pretty charismatic when he drinks, so that makes sense. But just a little throwaway line to say they broke up. Bernadette, I felt a lot more invested in as a character, so that's the difference
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Any more lows?
No, I think that was my last low.
Yeah, otherwise it was a strong season. There wasn't that much to complain about.
It
We
really
enjoyed
wasn't.
everything.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's talk best
That's it.
episode.
You want to take a guess what my best one was?
Was it the Precious Fragmentation? The Lord of the Rings one?
Nope, that was a good one.
Oh,
The Plimpton Stimulation.
because of Judy Greer.
Judy Greer, and I think we can go ahead. I have some more to say about favorite guest stars, but Judy Greer was my favorite guest star in that episode. I thought it was amazing. Raj drinking NyQuil from a flask, which allows him to talk to women. So he finds that loophole and makes it work. But just the whole situation where they're actually contemplating a foursome with her, I still have to start laughing. And then Raj leads them all out, and he's like, "Okay, it's you and me, baby." So like, so you can't pay the rent, right?
No.
I love that episode. That was great. How about you?
My favorite episode, any guesses on mine?
I was actually going to say Lord of the Rings one with the ring.
It's on there. That's actually my second
Second?
favorite episode of the season. My first one was the adhesive duct deficiency.
Where they're in the car trying to get to the hospital.
Yep. I thought it was perfect that we got to see the three guys, Leonard, Raj, and Howard, get high. We saw them get high, and the side quest of the episode was, well, I guess it was kind of like they're both they were almost both A plots.
Yeah.
Shows usually have an A and a B plot, but they were really both A plots in this one.
Very, very
And
strong.
I love seeing more like the relationship of Sheldon and Penny kind of building up. Like you kind of see them hang out together, but like not really. But this one they were kind of forced to be together, but it worked out so perfectly.
Mm-hmm. I have to say that the guys getting high is my number one for best moments. I like the orgy scene or the contemplation of the orgy, but them accidentally eating the brownies, saying, "Oh, they gave us some cookies or whatever," and all getting high and while they're camping. Superb, superb episode.
My third favorite episode, I mentioned earlier, the staircase implementation. When we learn the background of everybody, how they meet, and what happened to the elevator.
And we had
Any other
guest star there, right?
Yeah, we had a couple guest people. We had three that in that episode. We met Joyce Kim, we saw Sheldon's old roommate, and we met the neighbor.
I forgot about
the old neighbor. Yeah,
Joyce Kim was in a different episode, but Joyce Kim was in that. Excellent.
Yeah.
But, the old roommate was superb, and again, it's before he was on Walking Dead, so
Stephen
like,
Yeun. Yeah,
nobody would have recognized him. But now we're watching it like, holy shit!
yeah. It's Glenn.
It's Glenn. Glenn, what are you doing? Go back. The zombies.
All right. Not to be super negative, but do we have a worst episode? I won't call it worst episode because at the end of the day, they were all good episodes. So I guess it would be the least favorite.
For me, it's which parts bothered me the most of certain episodes. And so I already mentioned Bernadette disappearing. I felt like maybe that wasn't the whole episode, but that was such a downer that it did hurt the episode. But the one that came up for me was episode 7, Guitar's Amplification. And I felt like it was such a silly argument that the plot didn't make sense. That Penny invited an old boyfriend to stay over. And Leonard was like, you can't just invite guys to stay over, especially if you've had sex with them, right? And then like the solution seems so easy. Like, oh, he can stay with Leonard and Sheldon, right? But it seemed like just a really forced argument that did not make sense.
That's true. Yeah. It didn't really make sense, and I feel like they were just trying to find a way to make conflict
Yeah, yeah.
for them.
How about you?
Yeah, I'm racking my brain. Like, as I remember, I said there. God, there was one episode where I watched like 4 times, and I remember saying every time I watched it, I liked it less and less. But I'm racking my brain of which one it was. I guess it wasn't that bad at the end of the day. But yeah, like I think I have to say, the Christmas episode that you mentioned, that was a disappointment, and not because it was the Christmas episode or not because like, it had some great moments, but anytime I see Bev,
Yeah.
everyone knows I just don't like her. I know her character makes sense for the storyline, but that doesn't mean I have to like her.
Mhm.
Every time I see her, I'm like, oh, what, like, how is she gonna piss me off this time? But
What you
I
gonna
know
do, Bev?
I know it drives the storyline forward before anyone says anything. I get it. She has a purpose, and she's part of like why Leonard is the way he is. But that's why we don't like her.
Yeah.
She ruined her own son.
But on the bright side, they talk about was it Taco Time? Taco Tico.
What was it? It's a chain that we've been
Yeah.
looking to. It
That
still
I've never
exists.
had, which is why I always forget it. But when I was in California a few months ago, I saw
Del
one.
Taco.
Del Taco.
Del Taco.
I need to have it
That's
sometime.
that's the Del Taco.
The Del Taco.
Well, do you have any noteworthy moments?
I think
I feel like we kind of mentioned this already with the
yeah,
highs.
the getting high and camping, the roller skating, the contemplating having an orgy with Plimpton. But one more that I haven't mentioned yet is when Leonard takes Raj to Switzerland because Sheldon
I
and
was gonna
Penny
say
get
that.
sick.
That's on mine too. Yeah.
That was another perfect ending. And Raj is
Yeah.
so happy, and Leonard's like, God damn it. Like everything's still set up to be a romantic getaway with Penny, and Raj is like, "Oh
Yeah.
yay!"
All right. Any other moments? Or
I think that's it.
that's pretty much mine. So now we have best guest actor or character. And I'm going to run through them because I actually took the time to write most of them down.
Rob did, yeah. He gave me a nice list to help me remember and help that. Just knowing who was in
Uh,
each episode helped me remember the episodes too.
you don't realize it when you're watching it, but then after I wrote down this list, almost every episode has a guest actor.
Mm-hmm.
Starting at the top of the season, um, episode 1, Laurie Metcalf was there as Sheldon's mom. Again, in episode 1, John Ross Bowie is Kripke. Episode 2, Lewis Black was Professor Crawley. Episode 3, there was the two goth girls, Bethany and Sarah, played by Molly Morgan and Sarah Bueller. Also, in episode 3, the tattoo artist, Andy McKenzie. Episode 4, Dr. Catherine Millstone is played by Elizabeth Bogush. Professor Laughlin is played by Oliver Muirhead. And then episode 5 is when we meet Bernadette, Melissa Rauch. Also in episode 5, Stewart comes in, Kevin Sussman, also Will Wheaton makes an appearance as himself.
Wheaton.
Episode 6. Oh, I wrote 6. I must have typo. They're both in episode 6. Raj's mom and dad.
They're on a
Brian
computer
George.
screen, so they're together.
Yeah. Yeah. Typo.
Typo.
And Alice Amter. And then in episode 9, Ira Flo plays himself as just a voice. And also in episode 9, Katie Sackhoff plays herself. Episode 11, Christine Baranski is Beverly Hofstadter. And then in episode 12, which we mentioned, Abby and Martha, Danica McKellar and Jen Drohan. Episode 13, the police officer, Officer Hackett, played by Julio Oscar Mekhezo. Episode 14, Lisa Simpson, playing Sandy, Yardley Smith. Episode 15, Stanley plays himself. And then the judge, Judge Jay Kirby, is played by Steve Paymer. Episode 16, Raj's cousin, Frank Maharaj. And then series of episodes with no one. And then episode 21, Judy Greer as Dr. Elizabeth Plimpton. Episode 22, we have 3 guest stars, which we already mentioned. Stephen Yoon is Sheldon's old roommate. Ali Maki is Joyce Kim. And Aji Kirkland is Louie, the black transvestite neighbor. And then in episode 23, we have a lot of guest stars. Sarah Gilbert returns as Leslie. Mayim Bialik comes in as Amy Farrah Fowler. Brian Thomas Smith as Zach. And Laurie Johnson as Mrs. Gunderson. We already know your favorite.
Judy Greer. I was going to say... oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, do you have a second favorite then?
I was going to say two other favorites, but I was going to mention this too, that Judy Greer has a new movie coming out, a Christmas movie called like The Greatest Native Play Ever or something, like nativity play. And I went to see Beetlejuice, and they had a trailer for it. And I don't know if it's going to be good, but I am so on seeing it just because I am such a Judy Greer fan now. But I've always been. But okay, the other two, Stephen Yoon, I love. But I want to mention that every time the owner of the comic book store, Kevin Sussman, I don't know, I just highlighted the wrong thing, I'm sorry, is great, kind of depressing, but funny, and usually he's accompanied with Will Wheaton, or there's some association. Also, he was like the reason Stan Lee came, right? There's some connection there, but I like his character. And I always love Sarah Gilbert as Leslie. Whenever she pops up, it's a nice surprise. I wish she could be on it more because she's such a great character and such a great actor. So those are two great ones too.
Yeah, I really like. We're starting to see the decline of Stewart.
Aww.
Like he's
Yes.
okay. Like all of season two, he's like, okay, you're pretty. Like you start off pretty charming. It's like you're a business owner. You're an artist. You even scored a date with Penny,
He's
and
nice to
then like
people.
yeah, and then the beginning of season three, it's like, wow, you're hosting a game night, like a game night tournament. Will Wheaton and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, a slow decline where I might get stood up by a cat tonight.
It's not my cat. I'll eat some tuna. So wow.
Yeah, I love it, but it's so sad at the same time.
And I was kind of surprised that Sarah Gilbert like was only in one episode this season. I feel like she had just been in it, so I'm like, man, she
Yeah,
still
season one and two, she was in pretty often, and then she
yeah.
kind of just fell off the radar.
How about you?
Yeah.
Favorite guest appearance?
So, Stephen Yoon,
Stephen Yeun.
like, yeah, one of the top ones. You already mentioned Judy Greer. Love Judy
Mm,
Greer. Um, but I really liked seeing Stan Lee play himself.
mm.
That this was around the time where Marvel was starting to like make its like the MCU was starting to grow and everything like that. It's like
Yeah.
2009, 2010. Iron Man was in 2008, I think. So
Hmm.
yeah,
That
like the
was the
rise in
kickstart,
comic books
yeah.
and everything. So Sting Stanley was really fun.
And him in his fight with
Uh,
Sheldon, right? So
yeah.
it was funny to see that.
um, I will say at the time this wasn't as big of a deal. Katie Sackhoff,
Hmm.
but because I wasn't a big Battlestar Galactica fan,
Yeah.
but now I am a big Mandalorian fan, and she is Bo-Katan. So now
Ah.
I love her. And then I really like Zach. Zach, I don't know the actor, but Zach's character, the introduction of Zach Gold.
Hmm. Yeah, I forget about him just because he was right at the end, but he was great, and I think I mentioned in the our last podcast that I thought he was a great character, that he was nice. Like they make fun of him for being stupid, but like I think they give him short change, and he's like when he says, "Should we invite them to the party?" I'm like, that is a stand-up guy. Like he's just overall like being kind. He's like just because he's not as smart as them or like a scientist, like there's nothing wrong with that. So I
Yeah.
look forward to him to coming back too.
All right, let's do our point tallies, which I didn't even write down. So we'll start. All right, so we'll start off with point tallies, and then we'll go into our favorite IQ
I keep
points.
So I can,
So
while you're calculating, I can talk about Ryan versus Sheldon.
yeah,
And literally, I was Sheldon for like the majority of the season. In the last couple episodes, especially like the last one, I jumped up to 102 being not like Sheldon, 100 points being like Sheldon. And I really think it was just those last couple episodes I identified with a couple other characters a little bit more, and it tipped the tables a little bit, and I was a little bit surprised, but it was just like those because for the most of it, I was Sheldon.
well, I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens in
See,
season four. But did you break down your? You have a total point count, but do you have just to season three?
oh, let me see. I could do that really quickly. I wasn't even thinking about doing that, but
Okay, well, while
I.
you're calculating that, I will mention to total IQ point count for the entire season. We did 137 IQ points.
Nice. That's a lot of
Yeah,
IQs.
compared to season two, where we did, granted, we had our watch along episode,
Yeah.
but we did 166. So a little bit less, well, a lot less. And then in season one, we had 170. So it's been on the decline. Every season has a little less and less, which I think we kind of predicted from the very beginning of our podcast that they were kind of making more of an effort in the beginning to say more sciencey things and throw out more fun facts and everything. And I kind of knew it was going to kind of drop off a little bit.
That and some of them I've noticed too, they repeat things, and it's like we could do an IQ, but we've already done an IQ point on this. So
Yeah.
it's like some of the stuff is just we don't want to, we can't. Well, we could do whatever we want. It's our podcast, but we are choosing not to do an IQ point and count it
Yeah.
again. So I got totals for season 3, according to my calculation, being not like Sheldon, 33 points. For being like Sheldon, 28.
All right. So,
So
yeah.
this is more of a not Sheldon season, but again, I think the last like 2 episodes really swayed things.
Well, I think that's a good thing because at the end of the day, I don't think you want to be like Sheldon.
I don't know. Maybe it gets better in future seasons. Maybe that's all I want to be like.
He's on my vision board. My vision board just has a picture of Sheldon
It's just
Cooper.
him. And then smaller pictures of Sheldon.
Surrounding him in a perfect circle because he is perfect.
It's perfect.
Well, all right. Let's talk favorite IQ points this season. So I found, let me see how many I found now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I found 5 that are noteworthy to me.
I
How about
think
you?
I did 4.
Okay, so should we alternate?
Sure.
I'll do one, you do one. So I guess I will say in no particular order because I'm looking at my list and it's more chronological.
Mhm.
So I will say that my first one that I will mention as my favorite was in episode 1 of season 3 about preserving a snowflake.
Ooh.
Yeah, so we break down how to accomplish this task in season 3, episode 1, and we actually tell you exactly how you can do this at home. It's really not as hard as we thought it would be once you break down the how-to steps. So I'll kind of give a quick rundown of it now, but if you want the full analysis, go back and re-listen to or listen to the first time at our episode 43, which is season 3, episode 1. So it's pretty quick, shockingly easy, and with very few materials. So you need to pick a very cold day or night when it's actually snowing on a snowy day, and you basically need a fine-tipped paintbrush, and you basically use that to pick a snowflake. You do this because if you do it with your hand, your body warmth will most likely melt it.
Mm.
And then you place it on a microscope slide, and then you quickly cover it with a gel-based glue. And then you let it cure. You let it just harden, and there it is. Preserved forever.
Yeah, I remember that
Well,
one as
yeah.
it's oversimplifying, but I remember it as you super glue a snowflake.
Yeah, that's pretty much all it is.
My first one is from episode 6. I didn't write all the episodes down, but this one is from episode 6, and I think it's because it's come up a couple times, and I'm like, I've heard about this, and it also is kind of troubling to me. But when they go kite fighting, we talked about kite fighting and talked about how it's prohibited to put glass shards, like a glass dusting on your kite string, and that sometimes people die because the cord gets caught around them and it cuts them and they start bleeding. And to me, I don't know why that's so terrifying, but it's a
Kite
IQ
runners,
point.
man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's horrible. It's horrific. So yeah, that's an IQ point that is gonna stick with me, and I'm glad we did it because it's
That's a good one, yeah. My next one was in episode 5, eidetic memory versus photographic.
Oh yeah.
So this is one, I love this one because it validates why we're doing IQ points. Because they were wrong. And we mentioned this a few times throughout this season, was that like their use of the terminology is incorrect. So Sheldon does not have an eidetic memory. Based off his description on how his memory is, it is photographic. So more on that on our episode 47, episode 5.
So my next one is from episode 16, and I think it's because I don't know, YouTube has been advertising dash cam videos to me, and like one of them had a girl who's speeding at 120, and cops pulled her over, and she gets out, and she's a teenager, so she's terrified, and instead of like getting out, and they pull their guns on her because somebody driving 120, what's going on. But she gets back in her car and drives away again, and they finally get her to stop. They was it PUD. They cause her stop, but she gets out and she says it was an emergency. I was running out of gas, and the whole thing was like running out of gas isn't an emergency, right? But the
So
reason
it burns more gas.
Right, exactly. Yeah, she was not educated about driving. But the reason it brings this up is when Sheldon uses the Latin quote, quod est necessarium est licitium, licitum, which is that which is necessary is legal. And again, another one that is false. That you will be prosecuted because you have an emergency. We have ambulances for emergencies, and if you decide to drive at 120 miles per hour, be prepared to be prosecuted. It might be an emergency. You might save your friend's life, but you have to do so knowing you're going to get in trouble, and that Latin statement is not really. You might get a sympathetic judge, you might get a sympathetic jury, but you're going to be prosecuted. So I thought that was a good one.
Yeah, it's up to the discretion of the law enforcement.
Exactly.
Nice, that was a good one. My next one was from episode 12, the Zoot Suit Riots.
Oh yeah.
That was actually very interesting. We did a full breakdown and a brief history of the race riots in America, which was called the Zoot Suit Riots. Like, I had no idea
I thought it
about
was
that.
just
I
a
mean,
song. Yeah.
yeah, my first experience of it and only experience was from that song, Cherry Poppin' Daddies.
Yep.
And then when they mentioned in this, I was like, huh,
Huh.
it was a real thing. And then we look into it. Great breakdown. If you want to hear it, it's season 3, episode 12, our episode 54. You should check it out. It's very interesting. There's actually a lot of parallels with Black Lives Matter. So it's like kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So check it
That's
out.
a good one. My third one is learning that Stan Lee uses alliteration in names because it's easier to remember.
Yes, it's nothing special. It just helps him remember.
Peter Parker, Bruce Banner, just helps him remember.
Stephen Strange,
Stephen Strange.
Pepper Potts. My next one was from episode 13. How often do criminals really return to the scene of the crime? Which we learned is shockingly high. There's a 50% chance that if your house gets broken into, there's a 50% chance that they will return within 6 months.
And rob
It's
you again.
horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, horrible. But yeah, that was a great IQ point because I thought it's very useful for everyone.
So my last one is again, I just feel personally close to this, but it's also another one where we disprove something that they're saying. Where Sheldon decides that he's going to be proactive and take a antibiotic regime, right? A course of antibiotics to help prevent getting sick because Raj is sick, right? And again, it's we talk about it more, but people doing this have basically ruined antibiotics, and in the next like I don't know like 10 years or something, antibiotics are going to be useless, and because we've overused them, we've helped bacteria evolve into super bacteria that is no longer responding to antibiotics. So yeah, don't just be proactive and take antibiotics to help prevent getting sick. Wait until they are prescribed and make sure you are actually sick with a bacterial infection.
Yes.
But yeah,
All right.
sicknesses and illnesses creep me out, so that was one that I felt personally connected to. Like, yeah.
And my final one was in episode 15, Ryby Leekleys. which is the little turnip lights. Robin
Yeah.
means turnip, Lickly means little light. So we did a breakdown about little turnip lights. That
I
that was fun.
forgot that one, but it's all about the holiday season, and it was beautiful. I love that one. I would have put that if I
Yep.
had remembered. Oh man, that was a good one.
Yeah. Great IQ points this season.
Yes. It's one of those things too where I get season two mixed in a little bit. I'm like, I forgot this was this season.
Yeah.
Good
Well,
stuff.
that was it. Any other last minute things you want to mention about season three?
I think that's it for season three. I was gonna say I put down some theories for season four. I I'm theorizing Bernadette's gonna get back. Howard's gonna win her back somehow, and it's gonna be a little bit deeper. Again, I've seen just from when it was on, seeing commercials that I know Bernadette's in more of it, so she's gonna come back. I'm assuming she's not gone forever. Uh, I theorize that it's going to focus more on Sheldon, and I can see him becoming kind of pompous about his relationship. That him acting like, oh, my relationship's better and more important than everybody else's. He's definitely already, starting. I'm not going to ruin it. Started watching episode one from the next season, and he's already doing it a little bit. So it's kind of falling into that. And I theorize that Penny and Leonard are going to be very slow in getting back together. And it's I hope this isn't the case, but I feel like it's probably going to be rather irritating for me. And probably not until the end of season four do we actually make any headway of them getting back. Again, I'm theorizing, so I could be wrong. It's just I feel like they're pulling out that Ross and Rachel mentality of we got to hook people, we got to make sure that are they going to get together? They're almost together. They almost kiss, but they don't kiss. Stuff like that. And Penny still has to figure herself out about does she actually love him. So I think it's going to be a slow burn and almost frustratingly so.
Well, that's great.
That's my thoughts.
Yeah, I won't say anything.
I tell you, people who know I do this podcast keep sending me videos about the Big Bang Theory. And I'm like, I'm not allowed to watch this. And they're like, oh yeah. I'm like, Mom, stop that. It's not
Quit
just
it,
my mom,
Mom.
but my mom was one of the culprits.
Does she listen to the podcast?
No, not really. I think she's heard a couple
Okay.
episodes.
I don't care what my son's up to. Who cares about his opinion?
Yeah.
Ciao, please.
So that's all.
all, all right. Well, that wraps up season three. We're one more season down. We're not taking any breaks. We're just gonna dive right into season four next time.
Next time.
We will see you next time when we watch. Oh, wait, I forgot housekeeping. Housekeeping. Don't forget to like we're on YouTube. Don't forget to like and subscribe at Theoretical Nonsense Pod. We're also at Theoretical Nonsense Pod on Instagram and TikTok. Don't forget to leave us a review on Apple and Spotify. Write us an email at theoreticalnonsensepod@gmail.com, and we will see you next time where we dive right into season four.
See you then.
All right, thanks everyone. This was Theoretical Nonsense, the Big Bang Theory watch along podcast. No PhD required. Our intro and outro music is by Alex Grohl. Thanks for listening. Holy cat, thank you.
Holy cat.